Valerii Zaluzhnyi is a prominent Ukrainian military leader, best known for his role as the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Ukraine during the critical early years of the Russian full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. His leadership and modern strategic approach earned him both national reverence and international recognition. Here is a comprehensive overview of his life and career, early life and education of Valerii Zaluzhnyi. Birth and family background. Born July 8, 1973. Place of birth, Novohrad-Volhynsky, Zhytomyr Oblast, Ukrainian SSR, now Zvyahel, Ukraine. Valerii Zaluzhnyi was born into a military family, a background that deeply influenced his path in life. Growing up during the final decades of the Soviet Union, he was exposed early to military discipline, structure, and the values of service. Early influences. His father served in the Soviet military, which instilled in him a strong sense of duty and familiarity with military life from a young age. Although Ukraine gained independence in 1991, when Zaluzhnyi was 18, he chose to continue on a military career track, this time in service of the newly independent Ukrainian state. Military education. Odessa Institute of Land Forces, graduated in 1997 with honors. Specialized in mechanized infantry command. This was one of Ukraine's premier military institutions, where he received traditional post-Soviet military training. However, Zaluzhnyi quickly distinguished himself by embracing non-Soviet military doctrines and pushing for reforms. He was already advocating for more flexible command structures and professionalization of the Ukrainian army during his early service years. National Defense University of Ukraine attended this elite institution for mid- and senior-level officers. Completed courses in operational strategic leadership, preparing him for high command roles. His education here emphasized Western military principles, which he increasingly adopted over his career. Later academic achievements. In 2020, Zaluzhnyi earned a master's degree in international relations and national security, deepening his understanding of strategic military affairs in a geopolitical context. He also studied leadership and defense policy at various NATO-affiliated institutions and engaged in exercises and training with Western partners, including the US and UK. Key traits from his education period: strong advocate for Western-style military reforms, known for being intellectually curious and open to innovation. Rejected outdated Soviet command doctrines in favor of initiative-based leadership and decentralized decision-making. Valerii Zaluzhnyi as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Appointment. Date: appointed July 27, 2021, appointed by President Volodymyr Zelensky. Predecessor Ruslan Komchak. Valerii Zaluzhnyi became Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine at a critical time. His appointment marked a generational shift in Ukrainian military leadership toward a younger, reform-minded, NATO-oriented officer corps. He was seen as a highly competent strategist and a leader willing to modernize military doctrine and operations. Vision and leadership. Approach. Zaluzhnyi was committed to breaking away from Soviet-era practices in the Ukrainian military. His leadership style was characterized by decentralized command. He empowered junior officers and units to make real-time battlefield decisions, improving flexibility and combat response. Western integration strengthened Ukraine's ties with NATO and adopted NATO standards in training, communication, and tactics. Reform. Advocate promoted transparency, efficiency, and modernization in the military structure. Troop morale prioritized the welfare and training of soldiers, earning deep respect within the ranks. Leadership. During the Russian invasion 2022. Full-scale invasion. On February 24, 2022, Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Zaluzhnyi immediately became a central figure in the country's survival and resistance. Key achievements. Defense of Kyiv. Oversaw the repelling of Russian forces from Kyiv during the early months of the war. Used asymmetric tactics, ambushes, and mobile defense units effectively. Kharkiv and Kherson counteroffensives, 2022, coordinated successful operations that liberated large parts of Kharkiv Oblast and the city of Kherson. These operations were seen as turning points, demonstrating Ukraine's ability to take back occupied territory. Operational flexibility used modern surveillance, drone warfare, and real-time intelligence from Western allies. His flexible and modern command style contrasted sharply with the more rigid Russian approach. International cooperation maintained strong relationships with NATO, the U.S., and European defense leaders, helped facilitate arms deliveries, training missions, and intelligence sharing. Challenges and criticisms, resource constraints, constantly faced shortages in ammunition, manpower, and heavy equipment. Civil-military tensions. By late 2023 and early 2024, reports surfaced of growing friction between Zaluzhnyi and President Zelensky, particularly around war strategy and public messaging. Stalled front, 2023-2024. The battlefield situation became increasingly static, with both sides suffering high casualties and minimal gains. Pressure mounted for a change in strategy. Dismissal, dismissed. February 2024, successor, General Alexander Syrskyi. Officially, the move was framed as a necessary shift in military leadership, though many Ukrainians viewed it as politically motivated or premature. Despite his removal, Zaluzhnyi maintained high popularity and widespread respect across Ukraine and among Western allies. Aftermath and legacy. In March 2024, Zaluzhnyi was appointed as ambassador of Ukraine to the United Kingdom, indicating continued trust in his diplomatic and strategic value. Legacy. Seen as a national hero and symbol of resistance, credited with preventing Ukraine's collapse in the early stages of invasion, widely praised for his strategic clarity, humility, and devotion to his troops. Valerii Zaluzhnyi's role in the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine. As Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, General Valerii Zaluzhnyi played a central role in defending Ukraine during the full-scale Russian invasion launched on February 24, 2022. His leadership is widely credited with helping Ukraine survive the initial assault, stabilize its front lines, and regain lost territory in key operations throughout 2022. Immediate response to invasion. When Russia launched its all-out attack, targeting Kyiv, Kharkiv, and multiple cities simultaneously, Zaluzhnyi activated full military readiness across all commands, mobilized reservists and volunteers on a massive scale, quickly implemented flexible defense tactics, allowing Ukrainian units to hold or withdraw strategically rather than be encircled or overwhelmed, relied on decentralized command, giving frontline officers the autonomy to make rapid decisions in fluid combat conditions. This swift adaptation helped blunt Russia's initial momentum, particularly in the battle for Kyiv. Major contributions and strategic highlights. Defense of Kyiv, Feb-April 2022. Oversaw a successful urban and guerrilla defense that shocked the Russian military. Ukrainian troops used Javelin missiles, drones, ambushes, and civilian resistance to halt Russian advances. Russian forces eventually retreated from northern Ukraine by early April 2022. Operational coordination maintained real-time coordination with NATO intelligence and allied militaries. Integrated Western-supplied weapons systems rapidly, e.g., HIMARS, M777 howitzers. Used satellite and drone surveillance to conduct precision strikes on Russian supply lines and command centers. Battle of Donbass, Spring-Summer 2022, managed. A strategic defense in depth to slow Russian progress in the east. Minimized casualties by trading space for time, allowing troops to regroup and prepare for counteroffensives. Kharkiv counteroffensive, September 2022. Orchestrated a surprise counteroffensive in the northeast, while Russia was focused on Kherson. Ukrainian forces rapidly liberated large areas of Kharkiv Oblast, stunning Russian troops and analysts. Liberation of Kherson, November 2022, implemented a slow-pressure campaign that eventually forced Russian forces to withdraw from the city of Kherson. Marked a major political and military victory for Ukraine. Use of modern warfare tactics. Zaluzhnyi introduced a range of modern military tactics and technologies. Flexible command structure, modeled on NATO practices, extensive use of commercial drones, satellite data, and cyber warfare. Coordinated long-range precision strikes on Russian logistics hubs using HIMARS and other systems, emphasized soldier welfare, training, and morale, which boosted combat effectiveness. Public and international perception viewed domestically as a hero and strategic genius. Admired by Western militaries and media for his professionalism, clarity of command, and effective modernization of the Ukrainian army. Featured in Time magazine's 100 Most Influential People, 2022. Known for being calm, focused, and highly disciplined in public appearances, rarely engaging in political statements. Challenges. During the invasion faced immense pressure from massive missile and drone strikes on civilian and military targets, constant equipment and manpower shortages, the need to absorb and adapt to dozens of different Western weapon systems quickly. Also had to balance political demands from civilian leadership while maintaining operational independence, sometimes leading to tension with President Zelensky. Legacy of 2022 General Zaluzhny's leadership during the invasion saved Ukraine from collapse in the early days, shifted the course of the war through smart operational planning and successful counteroffensives, transformed Ukraine's military into one of the most capable and battle-tested forces in Europe.